Okay, now back to this personal struggle of these two men pursuing similar careers but exhibiting very different personal behavior, Chapo and Mencho. In August of 2016, just about 6 months after Chapo was captured for the final time and was headed to the U.S., his two sons went out to a party in Puerto Vallarta. Ivan, who was 35, and Jesus Alfredo Guzman, who was 29, had been vacationing in the resort all week. And now it was Sunday, the night before Ivan's 36th birthday. They went to an upscale restaurant called La Leche to celebrate, milk, where everything was white. 6 men and 9 women joined them there, all driving Range Rovers and Escalades, sat at a candlelit table in the center of an all-white room, ordered champagne and sang happy birthday. 3 hours passed. They're getting ready to leave. It's right before midnight. 6 armed men, CJNG, burst into the birthday party, put Ivan on his knees and grabbed the other one, took him to 2 SUVs. Whole operation only took less than 2 minutes. It was very clean, the restaurant's owner would later describe it as. Without a shot being fired, El Chapo's 2 sons had been grabbed. They'd made the mistake of partying on the turf that El Mencho claimed for CJNG. Now, in a way, definitely grabbing Chapo's 2 kids was a way to say, hey, I'm top dog now. They were planning on whacking them, but for some strategic reason, Mencho let Chapo send $2 million and a bunch of Las Drogas, and they exchanged the sons unharmed. And those guys, the Los Chapitos, are big deals. They're running the remnants of their dad's operation. Now today, El Mencho has a bounty of $10 million on his head, which is double what El Chapo had when he was wanted. El Mayo actually has $15 million on him. And El Mencho is considered the most dangerous, if not the most powerful, but maybe the most powerful narco in Mexico right now. Definitely the single most dangerous. Now, who is the man? And why did CJNG become so powerful so quickly? Nemesio Asegura Cervantes was born in 1966 on an avocado farm in Michoacan State, right near Guadalajara, which of course is where the whole Mexican cartel system developed. He went to the Bay Area. By the time he was 20 years old, he's in the Bay. He gets like a stolen property case. He gets sent back. He comes back over the border, and eventually he starts getting involved in METH production, and he starts middlemanning Ron H. In '89, him and his brother got caught selling, I think, 9 ounces to an undercover. And Mencho actually was just standing lookout, and he could have got away scot-free, but his brother already had a record, and Mencho kind of took the weight so his brother wouldn't get that much time, and Mencho did 5 years in federal prison. So in 1995, when he was 30 years old, El Mencho was paroled, and he goes back to Mexico. Now here's where his story starts to show how totally incompetent and incapable the Mexican state is, or at least away from the big cities. So he's a convicted H dealer, fresh from deportation from an American federal prison. He gets himself a job as a cop in Jalisco State. From there he joins the Millennial Cartel, which was big into the METH, which was big in that region, and they were part of the Sinaloa Federation. He was working security, and this is right when the Zetas are starting to launch. They're the armed wing of the Gulf group, and the Millennial aligned with Nacho Coronel, who's the uncle of El Chapo's wife, Emma Coronel, who just turned herself in and got a super duper light prison term. So you see how alliances are made. So El Mencho was actually aligned with El Chapo's wife's uncle, Nacho Coronel, called the King of Crystal. He got killed supposedly, but sometimes these guys don't even get killed. He was a very important part of Sinaloa's overall security apparatus. When the Flores twins, the guys who ended up snitching on Chapo, who 50 Cent is about to do the podcast with, they were doing a $25 million deal with some Chinese who are supplying precursor chemicals for METH, and they get grabbed by some federales who had been trying to extort them, and they wouldn't pay them. So now they grabbed them, and they're going to take them to the airport and send them to the U.S. where they had a bounty on them. And Mencho rounded up hundreds of sicarios and cut off the Mexican military and forced the Flores twins to be released, though, I mean, in retrospect, El Chapo wished that hadn't have happened. They first popped up in 2010. This is what the feds in Mexico, U.S. feds, told their bosses in D.C., quote, "There's a huge problem down here in Jalisco. When Chapo gets picked up, these guys are gonna run the show." They were fighting the Zetas at first, and before they had the name CJNG, they were calling themselves Mata Zetas, Zeta killers. Zetas had become totally hated, bleeding the population dry. They were extorting everybody for everything, and they weren't sophisticated enough to, like, when you're extorting a business, say, well, there's a sweet spot, where if you extort too much, people just go out of business. It's not worth staying in business. Zetas were wrecking the economy where they were at. Sinaloa does the same thing, but they have a light touch, and they don't cause economic disruption. And initially, CJNG tried to win over the population by releasing statements to the public, in video. They'd be dressed up in their gear and say, "We do not extort, kidnap, rob, or oppress. Our only objective is to finish off the Zetas, and all we do is sell. We don't extort and steal." Already, Jalisco was being described as Mexico's capital for synthetic Los Drogas, which at that point in 2008, the reefers were still at the tail end of being over half of Sinaloa's income stream, but that was about, obviously, to come to an end because of the change, and a lot of that started being grown here. So CJNG was in good position to take advantage of the move to the chemicals, first meth and now fent. Guadalajara has a thriving pharmaceutical industry with young chemists full of technical know-how. There's 2 Pacific ports, so stuff can come in from the Far East. Mencho might have started off rough. Like I said, they call the CJNG Mexican rednecks crushing up pseudoephedrine, but pretty fast he was getting submarines made by the Russians to bring in what coca he did get from South America. He also had a clever thing of, I was going to use this in a movie. I mean, I thought of this before, and now that I heard he did it, I'm definitely going to use it. They would create like fake magazines, and they would get a bunch of models and photographers and stuff, and they would go to, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, source countries, and load them up with stuff and probably drive, I guess. And the beautiful women, you might have 20 models there, would kind of distract. They would use these fake photo shoot magazine things to smuggle in stuff along with submarines.